Well, my name is Michelle Egan. I'm the Region 1 Administrative Operations Manager. We have 4 different regions in the Parks Department, so I'm one of 4 people across the department with this job. My main duty, it's basically in the title, I manage all of the administrative operations. That includes, my main duty is basically budgets.
Okay.
Each one of our sites has their own specific site budget, and I'm responsible for helping the sites manage those. But we also manage things like HR, hire packages, and running background checks and e-verifies. But anything administrative you can think of, myself and another lady in the office kind of oversee those operations.
And so you said you're one of 4 in the region?
In the state.
In the state?
Yes.
Okay, so and there are how many regions?
4.
4 regions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's only 4 of you.
There's only 4 of me.
Oh, I say 3 others besides
3
you.
others.
You're the original,
yes.
right?
I'm number 1. We're Region 1, so we like to say we're number 1 up here.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
What does your day-to-day job look like in terms of, mostly you said it's in responsibility for the financial or the budgeting aspect,
Right.
or keeping tabs on that? What does that look like, from day in and day out of your normal schedule?
Honestly, based on the time of year, it varies. Right now, for example, we're at the year end and year beginning. Our fiscal year ends June 30th. So we're kind of closing out FY20, getting all of our, making sure the sites are on time with getting all their last minute invoices in and getting everything closed out for the year, and then starting FY21. And right now, for the past few months, I've been busy building the FY21 budgets, which this year and last year we've kind of had a wrench thrown in with the state budget cuts. So trying to navigate through those has basically been my day-to-day focus lately. But our numbers got approved, and right now I'm just building all the templates and getting ready to send to the sites right now. So that's what most of my day pertains.
So how do you juggle that decision with meeting the state's needs and meeting
The
site needs and meeting citizens' needs?
Right. It's very hard to juggle. We are given a bottom line number by the state. This is the number that you have to come to. And we've got 13, 14 sites in our region that each have their own budget, like I mentioned. I meet with the site managers around February, which is when I start building the budgets for the next year. And we kind of compare what they've spent in the prior years and what they're going to need for this year. And then I have to, after I meet with them and get their total numbers, I kind of have to go back in and either minimize some numbers or make the numbers a little greater just so we can meet that bottom line number. But we also have to take into the fact that the money that we're spending is being spent on the upkeep of all of our overnight rentals and our day use facilities that the guests come out and use. So we want to make sure that those don't fall behind in these cuts. So it's kind of a juggling act to figure out what each site needs, and their visitation and how often these things are used. And it can be difficult when these budget cuts are thrown in to navigate it, but kind of makes it a little more interesting than.
So with your financial responsibilities that you have, what does your background look like in terms of your education, your training to help you prepare for such a position?
Funny thing is, I really don't have a whole lot of, as far as my college career goes, I don't have a whole lot of administrative background. I majored in history with the goal of getting at a historic site, which we manage a few in Region 1, but there's, I think, maybe 16 or 17 throughout the state. That was my main goal, which I did end up getting to one historic site, Travelers Rest. But through my career, you've got a lot of different hats that you wear as the park manager. You got your supervisory, your maintenance, your admin, your security, your resource management. I, for some reason, always excelled and did well in the administrative area of my job duties. Throughout the different parks I worked at, that was just the one area I did really well in. So when this job came open, it just kind of made sense to give it a shot, and here I am.
Where were you before you came here within the DNR?
I actually started out as a part-time desk clerk at Fort Yargo State Park. Checking in campers, answering phones. And then a few months in, the then region manager, who's now the assistant director, put me in the manager and training program. And back then it was only part-time. Now it's a full-time position, which is great. And I moved around to different parks, including Reed Bingham, Florence Marina, Providence Canyon, and I ended up going back to Fort Yargo as an MIT. And then I finally got a full-time job at High Falls State Park, which is just north of Macon. Worked there for a few years. Then I moved to Tugelo State Park, which is up on Lake Hartwell in the northeast region of the state. Stayed there for a few years, and then this job came open. So
Okay.
it's been about maybe 7 years in the field total.
Was
great.
the traveling a hardship in any way, or did you find it exciting? And I know moving is not a
Right.
preferred
It's not fun.
activity
Yeah.
by anybody.
Yeah, it was a lot. When I moved down to Reed Bingham, I kind of had it in my mind I was going to stay down there for a while, but I stayed there for a couple months. I didn't stay at those parks as a manager in training for more than a couple months, so each time I had to move my furniture from place to place. Thankfully, each site had a house on site that I could stay in. It was just the job of moving my furniture and all my stuff from place to place, which got a little hectic, but
Yeah.
as soon as I made it to High Falls full time, I stayed for a few years and made that move worth it.
That's good.
What do you like most about what you do? And maybe, you know, if you could speak also to some of the difficulties or struggles or constraints that you might face in your job as well.
I really enjoy, when you work on a park, you kind of stick to that site and talk to the people that work on that site. That just becomes your little home. What I like about my job now is that I kind of get to talk to everybody. I've gotten to know all of the park managers that I've worked with for years way better than I did when I just worked on a state park. Because I talk to them every day. They call me for help, and being able to be that person that they call to help them with things is kind of rewarding in itself.
But you're the manager of money.
It's dangerous.
Have you found that to be does that make your job more difficult, or does it kind of allow this more open conversation, dialogue, and what kind of skills does it take to do this?
Yeah, I feel a lot more pressure in my job now just because I am responsible for such a big thing. Not that the park managers don't have pressure, because they manage their own site budgets along with the rest of the operations of an individual site. But what was the second part of your question?
Those soft skills that
Yeah.
you require to use daily as you interact. Like, what's one of is it the writing? Is it the communication? What kind of communication? Oral versus written versus technology?
Yeah.
The emails, the phone
I
calls.
have become a
etc.
lot more well versed in Excel spreadsheets than I ever thought I would be. I couldn't navigate through Excel for anything when I first started, but now that's all my job pertains is Excel spreadsheets. That's all the budget is just one big giant Excel spreadsheet.
Right.
So I've kind of had to teach myself how to do that, and everything else I kind of did on site, communication with headquarters and other park staff and just the general public. But the Excel spreadsheets for sure, I've kind of gained that.
Well, our
knowledge.
students do use Excel, but
Yeah.
I think it's probably not even to the 1% of what probably the power you use it to. And
I showed in Professor Green's class, I showed a template of the budget, and I kind of was looking at a bunch of wide-eyed students looking at me like, is this what we're going to have to do? And I explained to them that there's formulas. It's all formulas in there, so it's really just data entry that the park managers have to do, but it does look daunting just based off of what the budget spreadsheet looks like, but
that's important.
it is.
And I think our students need to understand that it's not just managing the resource. You have to manage finance and people.
Yeah, administration is probably, all duties of the job are important and have their own importance, but admin recently in the past few years has become one of the most important parts of the job because you're running a business.
Right.
So you kind of have to know the ins and outs of your budget, which our managers know them very well. But it is probably one of the most important duties.
Yeah. What would be your parting wisdom in terms of what preparations students might be able to accumulate, whether it be through training or volunteering or whatnot, to start to work for the DNR?
Right. Getting your foot in the door is the hardest part. We do a lot of interviews for full-time jobs. We have a panel of usually 3 people, and I'm used a lot for interview panels. And we have internal and external candidates putting in for these jobs, and the internal candidates seem to have a leg up on the competition for these external candidates because they know how we operate.
Mm.
So getting your foot in the door, like I said, I started part-time as a clerk. It took me some time to get to a full-time position, but having my foot in the door and already having a little park experience, even if it was just a little, checking in people at a front desk, that is very valuable to have. So sometimes you got to start from the bottom and make your way up.
Absolutely.
Great. Michelle, thank you.
Yeah,
We
thank you so
really
much.
appreciate you taking time on your busy day to
No problem.
talk to the students and talk with us about this. And
Yeah.
we hope you have a wonderful summer.
Yeah. y'all
Stay
too.
healthy and safe.
I'll try.
Thanks.